Finally, Aston Villa have won back-to-back games in the Premier League since they beat Arsenal and Man City. Got us all dreaming about Aston Villa maybe doing the unthinkable. But these back-to-back wins have secured Aston Villa's kind of top four status credentials for the remainder of this season. But Aston Villa have probably got the most understated injury crisis in the league, and it goes from bad to worse as they enter a period of the fixture list that is going to define their season. In the video today, we're going to have a look at what we've seen in the Nottingham Forest game that is going to show us the number one problem that Aston Villa are going to have to overcome over the next 5 games until we get to the international break in March. At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers and we can't do that without your support, guys. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, over the last couple of weeks, Aston Villa have received huge injuries to Bub Camara, who's now going to be out for the remainder of the season, as well as seeing Ezri Konsa and Diego Carlos basically ruled out until the international break that we mentioned in the window. So the huge focus coming into the Nottingham Forest game for me was going to be on the defence, because with the fixtures coming up that we'll get to shortly, there's no doubt in the quality that Aston Villa have in midfield and how ruthless they can be in attack. But with the opponents that they've got coming up, the competitions are looking to go far in, the defence is the area that's going to be asked the biggest questions of. And when we come into this game, seeing Longley, Pau Torres, Moreno and Cash forming up the back four, this is not a configuration of a back four that Emery has been picking this season when he's had people available. Quite often we see one full-back that's a bit more adventurous and a bit more willing to go and attack, and another one that's perhaps a bit more conservative. But beggars can't be choosers at this stage of the season with the injury list that Unai Emery has. And for me, Matty Cash, since watching Villa under the microscope this season and kind of following along their progress this year, has been one of the players that has divided opinions so much. And I think you've really seen a lot of the bad of Matty Cash kind of come out in this game defensively and really offensively, not being good enough to take some of the chances that he was afforded in this game. But I did find it really interesting to see, again, with these wing backs starting. If I even just show you the teams that Aston Villa have been putting out, really since the whole season, but if we start from the back-to-back wins against Man City and then Arsenal, you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. As the injury crisis kind of worsens, Aston Villa, have configured and changed their team ever so slightly, but there has been an onus on if there's a back four, there's more of a 3 in there that can kind of tuck in and become more defensive, allowing the other attacking wing back to be a bit more adventurous and take the ground when it's been afforded to them. But having this double combination here hasn't worked out for them. As we see, the first time it plays, really, it's against Newcastle in the 3-1 loss. Konsa picks up the injury, playing right back against Sheffield. And then against Man United in the loss, it's Cash and Moreno. Cash and Moreno did play in the win against Fulham, and as we're talking about now, the win in the Newcastle game. But in both games, it's been very tight and very nervy, and you can see the frailties in defensive recovery, because when you do have Moreno and Cash, because the thing with Emery is he's not getting Cash to try and play like Konsa or, any of these other things. He's just letting them be who they are within the tactical system. And Bub Camara being injured is meaning that we're going to see the double kind of pivot, if you want to call it that, of McGinn and Douglas Luiz probably form the majority of this window that we're talking about. And that does give a good kind of command of the central ground of the pitch to allow a wee bit more adventure in the wider attacking areas, which is fine. But when the ball turns over, especially against a team like Nottingham Forest, you've really seen how dangerous pace can be on the break and how vulnerable Aston Villa are with the back four that they've got, and they're at the absolute bottom of their depth. Being 3-1 up at half-time, Pau Torres wasn't feeling too great, and a precautionary sub was made. Now, all the reporting coming out after this match is that he isn't actually injured, but he didn't feel great, and as the game went on, he felt gradually worse, which saw Callum Chambers come into this team. And then as the second half rolled on, we see Moreno come off for Digne. And for large parts of the second half, don't get me wrong, as much as Aston Villa still tried to go on and win the game when they could, they took controlled risks in this. The team did do okay with recovery defenders for the most part, but you can just see the vulnerabilities in there, and the lack of not upgrading a right back in January is maybe going to cost them here. I'm a big fan of Cash, and I think, what you get on this right-hand side from him is a really adventurous attacking player that's always going to cause opposition problems, and if he isn't directly responsible for it, but it can help the opportunities that does come to the ways of other attacking players as well, just by having this extra person that is going to go and overload the situation, come late into the back post or whatever. It just gives the defence, an extra player to worry about potentially coming in from a really awkward position. But like I mentioned already, in this game, he's missed chances. He's been a wee bit suspect defensively. and I think unfortunately there's going to be a lot of pressure on him and on this side of the pitch here. But we're going to need to see continued performances from Aston Villa's midfield, I think, to cover over the defensive frailties over these next games. Like I've already mentioned, Douglas Luiz and McGinn are amongst the best midfield partnership you're going to see in the Premier League, bar none, and in European football, particularly the competition that they're in, it is definitely going to be one of the strongest midfields around. But the likes of Ramsey and Tielemans that really complement this whole system, who, although Tielemans is kind of displayed here up front and did in open play really occupy this central striker area, it does still become this kind of Unai Emery boxing midfield that controls the play, controls the centre of the pitch, and allows the pacey, attacking, finishing players to find the pockets of space they need to get on the end of any creative build-up play or whatever's going on here. But again, I think Tielemans is going to really grab this opportunity of getting sustained playing time with the injury to Boob Camara, meaning McGinn and Douglas Luiz is always a bit deeper anyway, but McGinn's going to come in here a bit deeper. It just provides enough space for him in this attacking forte. And when you add in the likes of Ramsey, like that, this is going to be a really solid block midfield, I think, for Aston Villa, and really against all the teams are going to be coming up across, the intensity, the decision making, and the tactical awareness that they all have. There's not many that can really touch them, to be honest with you. Watkins is going from strength to strength this season, scoring more and more goals, and it really does feel that the synergy with him, Bailey, Diaby, who barely featured in this game, granted, and Zaniolo gives them an array of options that, coming over these next couple of games. Aston Villa have got a lot to be excited about going forward, but it is going to be make sure the defence is as strong as possible and not vulnerable to these big kind of open counter-attacks or leaving vulnerable spaces. So between Cash and Moreno or Digne, whoever's going to be playing on that side there, I think there has to be an extra focus on the whole balancing act of going forward and attacking and covering the spaces in behind, because like I keep mentioning, sitting in 4th on 52 points, when Tottenham play their game in hand, assuming they win it, 2 points clear of them. There's a real distance to 6th and 7th. It does feel like the top 4 fight is really a 5-horse race at this point, which Aston Villa have got a huge say in. But the next 5 games is going to start off away to Luton, which is one of the most unique fixtures in the Premier League and has to be taken on individual merit in terms of how Unai Emery is going to lay the team out and have the plan of attack for trying to win it. Now, I actually think Aston Villa are one of the most well-equipped teams to deal with this, because playing Luton is very similar to some of the Europa Conference League opposition that, Aston Villa have had to play, difficult stadium, difficult venue, close to the pitch, hostile fans. The team's built to maximise their home venue, and, they've got strengths that can hurt you. They know their identity and they play to their strengths. So this is a very important game for Aston Villa. Although Luton are in a relegation scrap of their own, they're not a team that anyone is writing off at this stage of the season with the points they've been picking up, and Aston Villa will be no different. Going away to Luton and picking up 3 points will go do the Aston Villa the world of good for reinforcing the last 2 results they've got. Getting 3 wins on the bounce is absolutely crucial, because right after that it is Ajax home and away in the knockout round of the Conference League, sandwiched around a massive 6-pointer against Tottenham Hotspur, who do not have that European football commitment. So from the 7th of March to the 14th, Aston Villa could be through to the next round of the Conference League and totally cut off from Tottenham Hotspur. 5 points ahead of them if they're level on games, or they could be 1 point behind Tottenham and completely out of the Europa Conference League. So those 3 games in particular are the ones with the most importance on them. But right after the second leg with Ajax, it is an away trip to West Ham, who are also trying to fight for the European spots, not quite as vigorously as Aston Villa are at the moment, certainly, but that is an opposition and it's an away venue that Aston Villa cannot be, not that they would be writing it off or taking it for granted or whatever, but even though there's a bit of hostility and a bit of animosity there, the whole David Moyes contract renewal situation, West Ham fans and all that caper, that is going to be the last game that they're going to have to ride through this kind of injury crisis before the international break. And then after that, the likes of Diego Carlos, Ezri Konsa, and I'm sure there was somebody else. I'm sure there was 3 players that were going to be coming back after international break. There's only 2 that jump to my mind at the moment. And then Aston Villa come back to start the final chapter of the season with a home derby to Wolves, who also have European aspirations on the agenda this league in the season. Again, the fixture list at the back end of the year isn't particularly kind or horrible to Aston Villa. They will have potentially European fixtures to come into here, but I know that they're going to feel a lot better coming into this section of the season with a fully armed defence to complement, I'm going to say it, the world-class midfield and attack that they have. I really enjoyed watching Aston Villa beat Nottingham Forest 4-2 at the weekend. It made me feel good to see that it wasn't a flash in the pan and they are going to continue on this incredible run of form they've had so far this season and make a real fist of it being some sort of historic year for them. Maybe there's European glory, maybe there's a top 4 finish or whatever. And seeing, you know, the attacking fluidity and tactical options, I've got no doubt Aston Villa are always going to be in the mix of these games scoring goals, but I do begin to worry about the defence now. Let me know what your thoughts are on Aston Villa's potential of, you know, getting through to the next round of the Europa Conference League, securing that top 4 kind of status over the next couple of matches. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. On screen there now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.